tank to envision the future of mobile media and communication. Join the conversation at mocom2020.com.
Okay, enough commercial advertisements. So, how many people have seen this video clip? 5%. First cellular call was Motorola. Yay, Motorola. And it will be interesting to see what Motorola shows at the show. I think they're starting to hit back, and that's great to see. I thought I'd spend the time that I have doing two things. Share a little bit perspective on some of the things that are happening in the industry, very briefly. And then Yael wanted me to share some news. I'm not going to share news. I am going to share the Microsoft story as it's being told over the last year and a half. Microsoft's story in the industry is much longer than that, and I'll refer to that. But I thought it would be interesting maybe for you guys to hear the fresh perspective on what we're doing and how we look at this market. So I'm happy that some of the stats in the video are similar to the stats that I have here, but it is a very, very large phenomenon. It might be the largest consumer phenomenon on the planet. If you look at the number of subscriptions, 4 billion subscriptions, that number dwarfs almost any other phenomenon that we see in this market. And with the growth rates of over 1 billion devices or a subscription in a year and a half, it used to be, by the way, a year, it's gone down with the economy, it may go up again. We're going to see penetration rates into the most impoverished geographies around the planet with this phenomenon. So this is a very, very significant industry and market. The other one that was also in the movie, in the clip, is about mobile broadband. Mobile broadband today, and that trend is already out the door. Mobile broadband today is larger than mobile wired connections. So more people are accessing the web in a very large pipe than people accessing from home. And that's a very interesting phenomenon from the point of view of the type of experiences, the type of media that people are going to consume on these devices. The other one is the rate of growth of smartphones. Those are really mini computers, and the rate of growth, I just saw a fresh stat from Barak, who some of you know. The last quarter, the growth rate of smartphones, there were 40% more smartphones sold in last quarter versus a year ago. So this thing is accelerating, and it's not unthinkable to see this getting to even more than 50% of the market moving forward. And that also has a ton of implications about the type of things that you can do with your phones. If there is a big story over the last couple of years, it's the application story. Now, I actually put another big story on this slide, and that's the social networking story. So we know that what's defined the end of the last decade, the beginning of this decade, and what will define this decade is this phenomenon of social networks. We are looking at generations that are going to grow in a totally different way than the way we have grown, and that's defined by those networks. So I actually thought it was interesting to put that phenomenon right next to the mobile phenomenon and what the application story looks across those two phenomena. So very large numbers with Facebook, close to 400 million subscribers, close to 500 million downloads of applications. But look at what's happening on the iPhone. You have a much smaller number of users. It's very large by any means relative to the newness of the platform. But look at the number of downloads. 2.2 billion downloads over a very short period of time. And if you look at the average number of applications per subscriber, this is an orders of magnitude larger number on the mobile phones than you see on Facebook. Why? Anybody has a guess? And has the courage to raise a hand? Because? User experience. Any other guesses?
Have the phone device all day, slow video flow.
Barak?
Because the smartphone apps are really the new web in a lot of ways. People consume
the internet via apps rather than via...
So all of these answers are right. And I think the question is not why, this is happening, but the fact that we are looking at two different environments. They are both very, very new, and they're totally different usage models. What does it tell us? It tells us that we cannot expect things to happen similarly across screens. We are going to see social networks across all of these screens, but people are going to use them in a totally different way. We are going to see advertisements or things that are going to try to commercialize free experiences, but they're going to be totally different across screens. And so that difference is what's striking to me when I look at this slide, rather than why is it happening. There are different reasons why. I talked to Yoram. Yoram thinks it's because people don't have anything better to do when they're in the subway or something like this. And I told him, well, I think it's because people like to show the latest and greatest application that they downloaded to their friends because it makes them look hip, cool, whatever. Right? It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is that there are going to be huge opportunities, and I put the word challenges in small fonts, but there are going to be a lot of challenges. Clearly, people are willing to pay for applications. If you look at, just average stats, over $80 per user, that's a very large number for anybody who wants to be an application developer. But the other stat is less than 5% of these applications survive more than 20 days on people's phones. What do we application developers need to do so people, A, will be willing to pay for our applications? We know that a lot of these apps are free. And B, that we will have a long-term relationship with those users. It's not a given. There is a ton of noise in this market that you have to cope with. Now, it's interesting because if you look at some of the categories of applications, you will see some interesting trends. People are willing to pay for fun, but they're not willing to pay for productivity. It sounds really awful. Like, I don't care about stuff that people do to help me be more productive, but I will pay for iBeer. It's one of the top-selling applications on the iPhone, right? So that's a very interesting phenomenon. I mentioned again advertising. Advertising in the mobile market has been around for almost a decade. People have been trying to monetize handsets since the days of WAP, not very successfully. Now, clearly, commercializing free experiences is going to be a big deal in the mobile space. How are we going to get there? That's the trillion-dollar question. And so I think this is a very interesting thing to look at from the point of view of this audience, because it is a different device. People are using it with a different mindset. We tend to think at Microsoft that people that holding mobile devices are more purposeful about what they're doing. And so the type of experiences, the type of scenarios that you want to think about need to be tied to that. So I'll tell you the Microsoft story a little bit. It's the updated one. Microsoft has been in this market for close to 10 years. There is an install base of over 100 million Windows mobile phones. Everybody has heard the stories about Microsoft losing market share and momentum, and those stories are right. We have lost market share. And it's interesting because we have tried in this industry to implement our culture, our philosophy. What is the Microsoft philosophy? It's building an open platform, creating a very strong tool set, and encouraging the highest form of flexibility, bar none. Flexibility in hardware, flexibility in applications, flexibility in peripherals. The idea is give people as much not just your users, your partners, everybody, as much flexibility. That will drive economies of scale. That will drive adoption because no person is alike. And that's worked great. Windows 7 is proving that the model works because you go into a computer store and you can buy any computer you'd like, in any color, in any shape, netbooks, high-end servers, and they cost a 1/4 of what the nearest competition costs.